Alright, so what we received here is a model 3018 3-axis mini router or CNC engraving machine, depending on how you want to set it up. Now this can be run as a router, or it can also have a laser attachment attached to it as well. Right, the first part we're going to do is build the base frame, and as you can see here, that's the general construction of the base frame. We've got a number of inserts that we've got to put in, and the actual supporting screws that have to go into each one of these right corner brackets. Now that's a 20mm square extrusion that they're using, and what we've got here is 360 wide and 330 high. So you must make sure that you get the right orientation. And this one here, it comes down to the top. I've just moved out of the way at the moment because we've got to try to get these brackets in. So what we've done is we've assembled all the supplied Phillips screws, and also the guides that go into the channel, and they basically fit in like so. So you've got to make sure that you get those in the right orientation, and then we've got to do that for each one. So what I've done here is just put the retaining nut in. As you can see, that will slide up and down. Now what happens as I screw down on the screwdriver, the clockwise direction, and as it takes up, the nut will turn into position and then lock itself in like that. So what we're going to do here is, we're going to place the actual retaining bolt in, or machine screw, and we're going to put the retaining nut on there. We're just going to do that with each one, just as a pre-assembly procedure. And they are a bit fiddly to get going, so we'll just put it down so it takes up a few threads. So we've got the base assembled now, so what we're going to do now is just go through and check that it's all square. So we go through each of the areas. And that seems to be coming up fairly well. So we've just gone through and checked squareness. We had a little bit of a problem on the bottom ones here. They weren't exactly right down. So we've gone through and readjusted those, and as you can see now, they're sitting nice and square. Do the same one there as well. So we've checked this squareness. Now the other dimension that they're showing us here is there should be 68 millimeter. So basically from this face to this face, and the easiest way to check that is like so, and if I put that across there and just do some light pressure, and as you can see, we've got 68.1. Alright, so the next part of the assembly is the back fence, and as you can see here, they've got the their drawing there for that, and I've just basically assembled it how it's going to look. You've got 360 across and 220 down. Alright, so again we've checked these for squareness on both sides, and that's come up good. And the other dimension that we're after is approximately 96 across there. We're getting 96.22 there. and we're getting 96.21 there. So what we've done, we're already pre-assembled one, but just to give you an idea what we're doing, we put the square up against the bed itself. So this is the bed made up of two parts. We'll put the retaining nuts in, or the lock nuts, whatever you want to call them. I'll put those in, and I'll just start the thread on those. I'm not screwing them right down yet. And we'll do the other one. Now, there's probably a number of ways you can do these, but principally what I'm going to do here now is come in about 20, I'm going to come in 20 mil. So I'm just going to square that up against the ruler there and come in 20 mil on the edge. I'm just going to hold that in position, and then I'm going to lock one down. That's just firm at the moment, and that's on 20 mil. Lock the other one down, give it a firm, and that's your bed put back together again. So the next part we're going to do is to put the right support rails, these, for the front and back sections, and to do that there's a couple of dimensions that we have to measure in. And what we're doing is we're taking it from that edge there, so we're coming in 70mm from that edge, and then we're just putting a light pencil mark, and we're doing that again at halfway between these points. Right, the next part is to attach these to the base. So these are your supports for the rods that go through, and what we've done here is that we've actually marked each of these with a center point, and then we can line that up with the base, which the other mark we put on we showed you earlier, and we line those two up, and that should give us a pretty good starting point. We do that for each one. Okay, so we've got our rod supports on for the front and back, and the next part is the support for the stepper motor drive. So we're going to put that on, and we're doing that in the same way. We've marked the center on that, and we've also marked the center position on the base frame. Alright, so we're back to where we were before. We had a little issue here. The actual holes that the screws go through were a little bit tight, and obviously it wouldn't do up properly. So what we had to do is just put a 5mm drill bit through there, to bring them to the right size. We've turned the base around, so this is actually the back section of the base that we're looking at now. And the next step is to install the stepper motor, and the first part of that is to install the bracket onto the stepper motor. Now there's 4 M3 screws that are actually used for this process. At this point in time we've placed all the right components that need to go onto the base. As such, they're all loose, they're just sitting there loosely, because all this has got to line up eventually. The next part of the process that we're going to do is to put the lead screw in, and to do that we screw on the brass part, and the spring goes on there. What I'm going to do is just feed the spring in. I'm just kind of twisting that backwards so it beds in properly at the bottom, and then we place that in there. We push that in, hold it in, and then we screw that through, and we keep screwing the lead screw through until we get about halfway. Alright, the next part is to fit the base on, and to do that, first thing I'm going to do is to place the lead screw into the support bearing and then place that back onto the tabletop. Right, the next part of the exercise is to put the two guide rods in. Now these guide rods are placed through the, might be a bit tight that one, let's loosen her off. Place the guide rods through, and they've got to go through the guides on the base. And the other guide on the base. And we're going to do this both sides and to the back supporting. There. And it's got to go all the way back to the supporting bracket on the back. Alright, so the process so far is that we've got the base onto the table, we put the guide rods in and the driving rod. Now what we had to do is to bring this all the way up to one end, and then once we got it into that position, as such, what we did then is we measured in from each edge and made sure that the table was centered to the base. We now have this item here. Alright, so we're going to lock that down. And that should now maintain center with these, and then we reverse the whole sequence. We're also feeling how smooth it's running, and it feels pretty good at the moment. Probably find out more once we get the actual unit operating. And then we basically repeat the process. We measured in from the edges, both sides, and made sure that they were right central with each other, and then we tightened all those down. Right, the next part is that we had to put the servo motor on, and we put the coupling on that holds your threaded rod to your shaft to your motor, and then we had to line all that up and make sure that was all centralized as well. So we've got the coupling on, and now what we're going to do is just go through and tighten down the supplied grub screws, and just make sure that they are tight. Turn it over, do the same thing on the other side. So what we've done here is we've put on the top rail system. We've done that using the brackets here, and we've lined that up with the second rail there. So now we've got these locked in, and a distance from the back of the square brackets, or the right angle brackets I should say, to the back here is approximately 20 millimeter. So what we're doing here is just putting on the front supports. I've already done one side. It's just a matter of lining them up. The procedure I'm using is just tightening up the top screw first and making sure that that's firm, just keeping firm pressure on the support, and then tightening up the bottom. Alright, so the next part we're going to do is to actually assemble the drive rod. with reference to the top motor assembly. The first thing I do is put in your spring. You have your right, so that takes up your backlash. As you can see, right, we've got that started through. I'm just screwing the rod, right, the drive rod through. Let's see if this rod goes through. Well, goes through that one. So I'm just putting the rod through at the moment. Nothing's tightened up really tight here just yet. This is kind of a semi-assembly stage, and that's got to go through there like such. And I'm just kind of holding everything, guiding it through to the other side. Try to keep it nice and even. Alright, so what we've done is put the top and bottom guide rods in, and also right position the brackets. These top brackets are basically level with the top of the frame, and what we're doing here now is I'm just bringing it over to one side, and then we can tighten up these ones so that puts them in position. Just tighten both these up, make sure they're firm, and I had these kind of loose as well, so just tighten those up, make sure they're in position, and then we slide over to the other side and do exactly the same routine. So what we've done here is we've put the top and bottom guide rails in. We're also got the screw thread in, and we've joined all that up to the motor. Now we've brought the whole head unit across, and what we've done here is adjusted the motor up and down, and then tighten that up with the top screw initially, just lightly. And then what we're doing is just testing that we've got a nice even smooth run, and we're going backwards and forwards a bit with that. And then once we've got that right, we finished off with the top and bottom screw and tighten those right up.